نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ومن الناس من يقول آمنا بالله فإذا أوذي في الله جعل فتنة الناس كعذاب الله ولئن جاء نصر من ربك ليقولن إنا كنا معكم أوليس الله بأعلم بما في صدور العالمين وليعلمن الله الذين آمنوا وليعلمن المنافقين. وقال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا اتبعوا سبيلنا ولنحمل خطاياكم وما هم بحاملين من خطاياهم من شيء إنهم لكاذبون. وليحملن أثقالهم وأثقالا مع أثقالهم وليسألن يوم القيامة عما كانوا يفترون. ولقد أرسلنا نوحا إلى قومه فلبث فيهم 1000 سنة إلا 50 عاما فأخذهم الطوفان وهم ظالمون فأنجيناه وأصحاب السفينة وجعلناها آية للعالمين. وإبراهيم إذ قال لقومه اعبدوا الله واتقوه ذلكم خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون. إنما تعبدون من دون الله أوثانا وتخلقون إفكا إن الذين تعبدون من دون الله لا يملكون لكم رزقا فابتغوا عند الله الرزق واعبدوه واشكروا له إليه ترجعون. وإن تكذبوا فقد كذب من قبلكم وما على الرسول إلا البلاغ المبين. Respected honorable friends, in the verses recited to you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues with the similar mention as in the previous verses, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was mentioning with regards to the tests that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts the believers in, and also the obstacles from those who do not believe. Here to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned that وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَقُولُ آمَنَّا بِاللَّهِ. Here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to as the munafiqeen. That from the people are those who say آمَنَّا بِاللَّهِ, that we believe in Allah. فَإِذَا أُوذِيَ فِي اللَّهِ جَعَلَ فِتْنَةَ النَّاسِ كَعَذَابِ اللَّهِ. That when they suffer any adversity, in difficulty, فِي اللَّهِ, for the cause of Allah, جَعَلَ فِتْنَةَ النَّاسِ, they treat the difficulty of people كَعَذَابِ اللَّهِ, like the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَئِنْ جَاءَ نَصْرٌ مِّن رَبِّكَ, and if you were to, if help comes to them, مِّن رَبِّكَ, from your Rabb, لَيَقُولُنَّ, they would say, إِنَّا كُنَّا مَعَكُمْ, that we certainly are always with you. أَوَلَيْسَ اللَّهُ بِأَعْلَمَ مَا فِي صُدُورِ الْعَالَمِينَ. Does Allah Ta'ala not know best what is in the hearts of all those in the universe? So Allah Ta'ala mentioned that وَمِنَ النَّاسِ, from amongst the people, referring here to the munafiqeen, are those who say that we believe in Allah, but they were the munafiqeen after all, so they didn't truly believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But then when any difficulty and hardship would come towards them in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then their condition is that جَعَلَ فِتْنَةَ النَّاسِ كَعَذَابِ اللَّهِ. They are unable to bear it, so they treat the difficulty which people give them as if it is a punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Meaning that what they will do is, especially the munafiqeen, that when any hardship and difficulty would come their way, or those who from the non-believers would threaten them with any punishment or other difficulty, then they wouldn't be wanting to bear that hardship and difficulty. So instead what they would do is that they would come out of the fold of Islam. They would renounce and they would come out of the fold of Islam, thinking that this is the punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when this is the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then there is no need for us to stay in Iman. So the easiest way is to avoid any hardship and difficulty coming from the direction, from the ways of Iman, and just renounce Islam instead. And when وَلَئِنْ جَاءَ نَصْرٌ مِنْ رَبِّكَ, but then when any help would come to the Muslims, then they would want to be part of that as well. Especially when it comes to the spoils of war, for instance. There they would say, لَيْقُولُنَّ إِنَّا كُنَّا مَعَكُمْ, that indeed we are with you. Allah Ta'ala says that indeed Allah Ta'ala وَلَيْسَ اللَّهُ بِأَعْلَمَ مَا فِي صُدُورِ الْعَالَمِينَ. Does Allah Ta'ala know best what is in the hearts of all those in the universe? That Allah Ta'ala knows what is in the hearts of the munafiqeen, and they will be punished accordingly, according to their hypocrisy and because of their jest. That's why in the munafiqeen fi ad-dark al-asfali min nar. They will be in the lowest position of the fire of Jannah, even lower than that of those who were outright disbelievers. Because those who were outright disbelievers, their kufr was known and open, that they disbelieved. So that wasn't much of a threat because you knew who they were. Whereas the munafiqeen, they were a bigger threat because they were those who concealed and hid their nifaq. So they were those who were worse than that of those who were disbelievers themselves. They would make a jest and mockery of Islam as well by way of jesting or as like being as Muslims, but in actual fact not being Muslims. So in this way their punishment is going to be worse. وَلَيَعْلَمَنَّ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَلَيَعْلَمَنَّ الْمُنَافِقِينَ. That Allah Ta'ala certainly knows who are those with Iman and will make people know who are those who are the hypocrites. Hypocrites, this is what Allah Ta'ala mentions in last week's tafsir as well. وَلَقَدْ فَتَنَّ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ فَلَيَعْلَمَنَّ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ صَدَقُوا وَلَيَعْلَمَنَّ الْكَاذِبِينَ. So here Allah Ta'ala mentions that indeed He will make people aware of who are those who have true Iman and who are those who are from the munafiqeen. Because the munafiqeen, when things were fine, good, settled, then they would be happy. There would be no issue at all. But when there would be the call of going in the way of Allah Ta'ala, where the battles took place, when hardships and difficulties came, that's when they would be on the edge. And that's when you know that look, these people are not truly in the fold of Islam, they're not there for it. They're just there by name. And the believers are those that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings tests upon them, but those tests are there as proof, so that even those who know around will know that look, who are the true believers and who are not. وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اتَّبِعُوا سَبِيلَنَا. And said those who do not believe, to those who believe, اتَّبِعُوا سَبِيلَنَا, follow our path. And what will happen? وَلْنَحْمِلْ خَطَايَاكُمْ وَمَا هُمْ بِحَامِلِينَ مِنْ خَطَايَاهُمْ مِنْ شَيْءٍ إِنَّهُمْ لَكَاذِبُونَ. They say, follow our way, and we will bear the burden of your sins. Allah Ta'ala says, they will not carry any part of their sins. Never mind that of others, they are certainly liars. So those who were disbelievers would say to the believers, that if you follow our way and come on to kufr with us, then in return of that, if we are wrong in bringing you onto kufr, then whatever sin and punishment comes your way, we will take that sin and punishment upon us instead. Allah Ta'ala says that they who do not believe will not carry any part of their sins, meaning the sins of the believers, because each person will suffer the punishment of his own sins. And that they are indeed innahum lakathibun. They are liars because they will never keep their word. Meaning even if it was possible that others could take and bear the sins of others on the day of Qiyamah, are they really going to be willing to do that and say, fine, bring your sins and we will bear the burden of your sins? So this claim of theirs, although it is false in the sense that it's not going to happen, nobody will bear the sin. وَلَا تَزِرُ وَازِرَةُ أُخْرَى. Nobody will bear the burden of any other individual. So when that is the case, it's not possible. Had it been possible, then their lives as well, because nobody is going to be willing to do that. And what will happen is that وَلَا يَحْمِلُنَّ أَثْقَالَهُمْ وَأَثْقَالًا مَعَ أَثْقَالِهِمْ وَلَا يُسْأَلُنَّ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ عَمَّا كَانُوا يَفْتَرُونَ. What will happen, Allah Ta'ala says, is that they will certainly carry أَثْقَالَهُم, their own burdens of sin, but not only that, but وَأَثْقَالًا مَعَ أَثْقَالِهِمْ, in addition to those of others as well. Meaning that, as Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions in the hadith, that person who indicates towards goodness, or the person who leads others towards goodness, becomes a means of righteousness or goodness or hidayat of another individual, that person will get all the reward of whatever good that individual does, without any deficiency in the one who actually does the amal itself. Meaning that if a person was the means, they gave guidance to somebody, guidance meaning they gave advice to somebody, encourage them, for instance, to read their salat, and that person, whoever you encourage, they start reading their salat. As long as they read salat, the one who gave them that indication or gave them that advice will also get the reward of that person performing salah. And the one performing salah won't be deprived, as their sawab will now be divided, and then there will be a case of now 50-50. Tell, look, I'm the one who brought you onto salat, so because I guided you towards salat, so now come on. Yes, we 50-50 partnership here now. So you get half and I get half. That won't be the case, but it will be a case of 100%. He'll get his 100% sawab as well, and the one who indicated towards it will also get the full reward as well. And on the contrary, that person who became the means of another person committing sin will also get the burden of that sin as well. That is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions here. That never mind carrying the sins of others, they will, first of all, they will certainly carry their own burdens of sin. And that too, in addition to those of others, whom they cause to sin. And this is different to, as I mentioned to you, the none will bear the burden of another individual. There it means that nobody will take the burden from off another person. And here it is because this person was the means. They caused another person to commit sin. So the one who did the sin, they'll get the sin for it. They can't say, look, that person was the cause of it, so they should get the sin instead of me. So they will get the sin. As Nabi Kareem mentioned, that whenever a person kills and a murder takes place, then the first person who killed from the children of Adam will get the sin of it. The one who initiated killing, which means that Qabil, the son of Sayyidina Adam ﷺ, who was a person who first, meaning that he is the world's #1 serial killer. He's the world's #1 serial killer. The Nabi ﷺ mentioned that whoever commits the act of murder, this Qabil will get the sin of it on his head, because he's the one who initiated it, who was the first one who did it. So this is something that a person needs to be wary of. Look at the reward as well. The great benefit that lies in a person being the means of hidayat to another individual. Of being a means of hidayat to another individual. And a means of being hidayat to another individual is of so many ways. One is where a person actually sits on a mimbar and gives a talk to people. That is one, where you have minimal listeners. And the other is within a person's own personal capacity as well. You will have so many friends, people that you know, family members, individuals, who as one-to-one, you are able to talk with, you are able to encourage. Hence, whenever there is that opportunity of passing on a good word, a person should not avoid that, and a person should not let that opportunity pass. If different matter where it's a case of, you know, that this person is going to end up in an argument and things are going to get messy, there is a different matter, understand where is best and where is not. But where the opportunity does lie, that's why Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam, during the khutbah of Hajjatul Wida, when Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave his sermon and all the things that he mentioned in it, and then Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned, فَلْيُبَلِّغِ الشَّاهِدُ الْغَائِبَ, that those who are present should pass the message on to those who are not present. And those who were present at that time, the Sahaba Kiram radiallahu ta'ala, they passed the message on, and we have that full khutbah of Nabi Karim sallallahu alaihi wasallam in front of us because the Sahaba carried that out. Similarly, all the hadiths of Nabi Karim sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whenever the opportunity, that's why you find that during the time of the Sahaba and the Tabi'een, whenever any issue arose with them, what they would do is they would just ask a Sahabi, a Tabi would ask a Sahabi, or maybe a Sahabi would ask a Tabi, because sometimes a Tabi who would be under the student, who would learn under the other Sahabi may have more knowledge than a Sahabi as well with regards to hadith. That is also possible in many such occasions, incidents as well. So at that time, in their response was straightforward, a hadith of Nabi Karim sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam. A hadith of Nabi Karim sallallahu alayhi wasallam, because for every occasion where they had heard or seen something from Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, they would recollect it. They would recollect it. And that was because of this hadith of Nabi Karim sallallahu ta'ala wasallam. This today in Sahih Bukhari as well. We did one incident as well. Sayyidina Abu Shuraih radiallahu ta'ala, a Sahabi, who was in Madinah al-Munawwara, and when Amr bin Sa'id, who was the governor of Madinah al-Munawwara on behalf of Yazid, neither was Yazid a good individual, and neither was this Amr bin Sa'id a good individual as well. So when he was commanded and forced to prepare an army to attack Makkah al-Mukarramah and specifically to kill Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Zubair radiallahu ta'ala anhu. So when he was preparing that army, at that time Abu Shuraih stood up and said to him that, I need to say something to you, give me permission to mention to you. And then he said that Nabi Karim sallallahu alaihi wasallam stood on the day of this Hajjatul Wida as well. And Nabi Karim sallallahu ta'ala wasallam said a few things, and he says that those things which, that sami'u uzunaya, that my ears itself had heard it, I had seen it with my own eyes, wa wa'iya qalbi, and my heart had remembered these things as well. So not that I heard it from somebody else. These are those things that I heard myself, my own ears, saw Nabi Karim sallallahu ta'ala wasallam giving the khutbah as well, and I remember these things as well. And then he mentioned what Nabi sallallahu mentioned with regard to the prohibition of killing somebody within the boundary of the hudud of Makkah, of the Haram, and the other things that he mentioned in this khutbah as well. And then at the end he mentions as well that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam even mentioned this, that those who are present should pass it on to those who are not present. So that is exactly what I am doing. I was there at the time, I heard it from Nabi Karim sallallahu ta'ala sallam, hence I am passing that on to you as well. So the Sahaba Kiram radiallahu ta'ala, each one of them were muballighin. By muballighin we mean not specifically those who are part of the Tabligh Jamaat, we mean by muballighin in a general form, because Tabligh is a general form. Tabligh isn't always, there's different ways of giving Tabligh. And the Tabligh Jamaat itself, that is also one of the methods and ways of giving Tabligh. So the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala were muballighin in the sense that whatever opportunity, whenever they had, they would pass on the hadith of Nabi Karim sallallahu ta'ala sallam to those who would be around them. So if we become the means of hidayat of another individual, either by us, yes, by going in Tabligh and being the means, by giving a lecture, or just that one-to-one as I mentioned. Because that is that opportunity. A lot of people you have so many friends, associates, family members, people that you can speak to on an individual capacity. And if we become the means of them doing any good deeds, then it's a case of we get the reward for it as well. And the fact that we become close to Allah Ta'ala because we became the means of their hidayat. So whatever good they do, they will get the reward and we also get the reward of it as well. So this is a case of buy one get one free. This is buy one get one free, isn't it? These sales will be coming about and people will be interested in what all the sales or deals are. But this is here as well, isn't it? You do your ibadat, he does the ibadat, you get this for free. You just spoke to him, and for that whatever ibadat he does, you're going to get the reward for that for free. So that is so easy for us. If we just take that bit of initiative and effort in actually giving dawah to other people, giving them advice, bringing them onto the straight path, bringing them onto the ta'at of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, bringing them onto the ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know somebody who's not reading salat, give them targheeb, advice, encouragement to read their salat. Now you know they are reading the salat, but they're not reading in the masjid, they're just reading it at home. Give them encouragement, bring them along with you to the masjid. keep an eye on them. They start practicing, it becomes their habit, we become the means of it. But at the same time, as Allah Ta'ala mentioned, and in the hadith I mentioned to you as well, but if you have become the means of others doing wrong, then you will also get a share of the wrong and the sin that they have done as well. So which means if you were the one who messaged all your friends that look, we're going clubbing tonight, so make sure you've got your COVID passes. So I'll be picking you up, so make sure you download it and get all that sorted. So you go and you might think to yourself, well, I went there, I never forced them to go. So what will happen is that on the day of Qiyamah, their sin will be on your head as well. And they won't be alleviated from it. They will also say the same. If they say, Allah, He's the one who picked me up, He's the one who sent me the text message, I was thinking we're going to Tafseer instead. But He's the one who sent the text message, and then there was a case of him or the Tafseer or Shaitan, then we know what's going to happen there. So it's his fault, he's the one who came, and he's the one who came in his car in front of the house. So he's the one who picked me up and everything, so it's his fault, he's the one who encouraged me. So nobody forces anybody. So the one who went will get the sin, and the one who encouraged and became the cause of another person becoming sinful will also get the sin of it. So the best is, if you want to sin, do it alone, do not encourage others. First of all, don't sin, but do not encourage others. Do not be part of others, become a group of those who are sinning. And if you know somebody who encourages you towards sinning as well, then remember as well, if you think that, look, this is my best friend, so you do not wish any bad for your best friend. So if each time they are telling you to do something good, or they become bad and they become the means of you sinning, then you're giving them a share of that sin as well. So it just shows that neither was he a good friend for taking you towards wrong, and neither were you a good friend by committing that sin and giving them a share of the sin as well and the punishment. So this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, that when it comes to this claim of theirs, first of all, they're not going to be willing to take the sin of anybody. And on top of that, their own condition is going to be such that they will have to carry their own burden. And in addition to that, they're going to have to carry the burden of others. وَلَا يُسْأَلُنَّ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ عَمَّا كَانُوا يَفْتَرُونَ. And on the day of Qiyamah, they will definitely be questioned of that which they yaftarun fabricated. Meaning this refers to mushrikeen, those who attributed partners to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They will be questioned with regards to what they had fabricated. After mentioning this, is at the end of the ruku, in the next verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions with regards to where hardship and difficulty was mentioned. Allah Ta'ala mentions with regards to Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salatu salam and Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu salam, in brief mention of them, with regards to the type of struggle that they had to endure and what they went through. وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا نُوحًا إِلَىٰ قَوْمِهِ. Allah Ta'ala says that without doubt we sent Nuh alayhi salatu salam as a Rasul to his nation. فَلَبِثَ فِيهِمْ, where he remained أَلْفَ سَنَةٍ إِلَّا 50 عَامًا, where he stayed for 1,000 years less 50. 1,000 years less 50 years. So who's awake? How much is that? So that is, say it for it. Just seeing who is awake. So that's 950 years. So, and this 950 years, Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salatu salam, that is the amount of years, period of time that he preached to his people. So Nuh alayhi salatu salam received Nabuwwat at the age of 40. And then 950 years he preached to his people. And thereafter the flood of Nuh occurred. And then he remained another 60 years after that. 60 years after that. So that is the lifespan that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given him, 1,050 years. 1,050 years Allah ta'ala had given him. And there are other opinions as well, this is the most sound. And what Riwayat is mentioned, that when it was time for his demise as well, the angels asked him that, what is your feedback on your life? What feedback do you give? With regard to somebody who has been given such a long life. So he said, Nuh alayhi salatu replied that it is like there is a house which has 2 doors. And the person enters from one door and departs from the next door. Meaning it was such a long lifespan that Allah Ta'ala granted him, but he just went by in such a short period of time, it didn't even seem that it was over 1,000 years. And that's haqiqat we know for ourselves, isn't it? Look, we end of the year. Year begins and the year ends. You don't even remember all the things that happened between the years. We just pass by so soon. That you just think that, look, it was just now that it was December 2020, that you lose track of which year you're in as well. That's how soon it goes. And there were times when that wasn't the case. You felt it. Especially students nowadays who are studying nowadays, when they start the alim course, for example, you go into it knowing that you've got 6-7 years that you have to study. But we're in a time wherein it's a qarabuz zaman, time of qiyamah as well, where time goes past. So for them, that 6 years is nothing, it flies by. Whereas when we were studying, that time 6 years, 7 years felt like 6 years and 7 years. You knew it, you felt it. It dragged a little. And those prior to that, they had more barakat in it. Ours was dragged, but theirs was barakat. So you would feel it. Now, that isn't the case. The year starts and before you know, the year is over. Annual bills and subscriptions that you have to pay for as well. Before you know, it's over. You just think, oh well, let's pay it now. And then when you look at your records, no, it is a year. So at times in the case of you think, since the Kashif is mentioning that the karate membership, annual membership is due. So simple thing like that, you get it and then you think that I just paid it now, not long ago. And then when you check it up, your record, and you find out it is 1 year. So the message was right. The reminder that they sent to you that now it's renewal time now, it wasn't incorrect. You might say, well, I just renewed now. So that is how time, and we know time goes by so fast. And it doesn't matter if it goes by, if we are doing something constructive with it, but we know that isn't the case. That's where the problem lies, that it goes past so fast. And we're not really doing anything about our akhirat as well. We're not doing anything about the hereafter. So here coming back to say, Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam, said Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam preached Tawheed to his nation for 950 years. And not only that, but in that 950 years, Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam had to undertake so much hardship and difficulty. He didn't have a good amount of followers either, but only 80 or so were with him on the boat. So very few believed in him. And those 950 years was a case of being tormented physically, hurt and injured as well. They would grab him, hit him unconscious, or when he was sleeping, they would take him, they would cover him up, take him somewhere far and leave him somewhere far. These are the things they would do to Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam for not just a few years or so, for 950 years. Only Nabi can endure this. The perseverance to continue giving Tawheed, despite the fact that there were only very few followers at the time as well. And here you may wonder that why does Allah Ta'ala say, Alfa sanatin illa khamsina, 1,000 but 50. Why does Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala not just say 950? The reason for this is because where 1,000 is mentioned, that, like you have the 99 pence thing, you think, okay, it's cheap, isn't it? But if it's £1, it's a pound. So 99 pence is what is below a pound. So you still think that it is cheap. It's the same thing. So that's how man thinks. So Allah Ta'ala says to show the greatest, instead of 950, you just think of 950, 1,000. But a 50, so in your mind, 1,000 sticks out. That look what large period of time it was. فَأَخَذَهُ طُوفَانٌ. And in that period of time, when they then refused to accept the message of Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam, then فَأَخَذَهُمْ طُوفَانٌ. A storm struck them. وَهُمْ ظَالِمُونَ. Whilst they were oppressive. فَأَنْجَيْنَاهُ وَأَصْحَابَ السَّفِينَةِ وَجَعَلْنَاهَا آيَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. We rescued Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam and the ashab al-safina and the people on the ark. وَجَعَلْنَاهَا. And we made them آيَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. A sign for the people of the universe to remind them of the consequences of rejecting the Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam. That's why now so much time has passed and we are now still remembering Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam, the ark, and those who were drowned in that as well. The son of Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam who couldn't save himself as well. These are those incidents Allah Ta'ala has preserved so that we take heed and lesson from it. And wa Ibrahim, and Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, إذ قال لقومه اعبدوا الله واتقوه. When he said to his people, worship Allah Ta'ala, واتقوه, and fear him as well. ذَلِكُمْ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. This is best for you if only you knew. So remember Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam as well. Because in Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, Nuh had a very large life. Then Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, in his lifespan, he had a lot of hardship and difficulties. وَيَزِبْتَلَا إِبْرَاهِيمَ رَبُّهُ بِكَلِمَاتٍ فَتَمَّهُنَ. So Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam was put to many tests. From a young age, he believed in Allah Ta'ala. So he had to leave his family and his parents and his family, and he moved away from there. And then later on, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted him nubuwwat, and how he left his family there in Makkah al-Mukarramah where there was nothing at all. His wife he left, Sayyidina Hajar, and how he left Sayyidina Ismail alayhi salatu wasalam as well, who was still newly born child, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then he was put to test by thrown in the fire as well. And then later on, the test of having to sacrifice and slaughter his child. So many sacrifices Allah Ta'ala put on Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. But he wasn't given a title of Khalilullah, just like that either. But فَتَمَّهُنْ. All the tests that were put towards him, so Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam remained firm and steadfast in his obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, loyalty to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إِنَّمَا تَعْبُدُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ أَوْثَانًا وَتَخْلُقُونَ إِفْكًا. Instead of Allah, he said to his people, you merely worship idols who وَتَخْلُقُونَ إِفْكًا, and fabricate lies. Whereas in the الَّذِينَ تَعْبُدُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ, and those who worship others but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, their condition is that لَا يَمْلِكُونَ لَكُمْ رِزْقًا فَابْتَغُوا إِنَّ اللَّهِ رِزْقًا وَاعْبُدُوهُ وَاشْكُرُوا لَهُ إِلَيْهِ تُرْجَعُونَ. Those who you worship instead of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, their condition is that they do not have control over your risk sustenance. Hence, وَاعْبُدُوا فَابْتَغُوا إِنَّ اللَّهِ رِزْقًا. Search and ask your risk from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَاعْبُدُوهُ, worship Him. وَاشْكُرُوا لَهُ, and show gratitude to Him alone. Because إِلَيْهِ تُرْجَعُونَ, to Him you are going to return. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that look, those idols that they worshipped, these were those who, they could not give risk to others. But the idols itself are those that they are in need of man to go give them their risk. They are in need of man to go and put risk, and people put food in front of idols. So man has to do that. So man has to feed the idols. And those idols are able to feed mankind. So if you want to seek sustenance, then فَابْتَغُوا إِنَّ اللَّهِ الرِّزْقِ. And this isn't just to do with idol worshipping, but this lesson is for us in all matters as well. That if you want your rizq and that, yes, you need to look for a job, but at the end of the day, rizq will come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. Rizq will only come to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it doesn't mean that you need to now bribe your manager or try and please him to extreme lengths, just so thinking that look, he's going to give me a pay rise. It is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can lick his boots as well. If Allah doesn't want, then He won't. He might even sack you instead. Whereas if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants that look, you should get an increase in your rizq, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself will put it in the heart of that individual that look, this person needs a pay rise. So the actual rizq comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ask that from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So instead of asking others, seek that from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when you do get what you do get, then show shukr to who? Washkuru lahu. Then again doesn't mean that you know, polish it as well. Then it means of washkuru lahu. Then you show gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah ta'ala put it in the heart of the manager, the boss, whoever is in charge, to give you that pay rise. And وَإِلَيْهِ تُرْجَعُونَ وَإِن تُكَذِّبُوا فَقَدْ كَذَّبَ أُمَمٌ مِّن قَبْلِكُمْ وَمَا عَلَى الرَّسُولِ إِلَّا الْبَلَاغُ الْمُبِينُ. If you deny, then in the message of the Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam, then فَقَدْ كَذَّبَ أُمَمٌ مِّن قَبْلِكُمْ. Many nations have denied before you. They have also denied. So the choice is yours. Either accept or deny it, just the way others before you denied as well. And وَمَا عَلَى الرَّسُولِ إِلَّا الْبَلَاغُ الْمُبِينُ. The duty of the Rasul is merely clear propagation. He cannot force you to accept. And that is the case with any da'i as well. Any muballigh da'i as well is the same. That you can only pass on the message to others. We cannot force others to make amal and practice. We can just pass the message on to others. Ask from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The rest then is in the hands of others. But at least we, by doing that, we have discharged ourselves of our duty, so that on the day of Qiyamah we won't be held responsible that look, we knew that there were those who were not reading Salat, we did not tell them to read Salat. There were people within our family who were doing wrong and we did not stop them from doing wrong. We'll be questioned for that with regards to Amal bil Ma'ruf and Nahy Munkar. But at least we have discharged our duty. that we did and we persisted upon it. And I mentioned previously as well, Shabir Ali Usmani Rahmatullah Ali, the nephew of Hakim Muhammad Hani Rahmatullah Ali, the one individual who would smoke. So he would tell him, stop smoking, and he continued, he persisted on it. On the 101 time that he had told him that stop smoking, that's the time when he quit smoking. So for 101 times he told him to stop smoking and the harms and whatever of smoking. They just show that he persisted on it, and he calculated, he kept a number of it, record of it as well. So that's the amount of time. If he gave up after 10, 15 times, what so much, how many times do I need to tell him? 10, 15 times now. But no, he continued. Eventually, it was meant that on that occasion that Allah Ta'ala would put that into the heart. And maybe because of his persistence, and not only that, but his ikhlas, his concern for that individual, Allah Ta'ala eventually then gave hidayah to that person. So we do not know on what occasion and when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can bring about that change, and if we become the means of that, then our akhirat is done as well. So when we know that there are opportunities for us wherein we can save ourselves and save ourselves in the hereafter, we should take those opportunities, and one of these prime opportunities is by us giving da'wah to other people as well, by us encouraging other people, by us giving advice to other people, passing on to them what is messages of what is right and wrong. And by this I mean not just forwarding things in your inbox and messages that come to you without any verification and that, and neither does every message have to be forwarded as well, no matter whatever punishment is mentioned for not forwarding those messages as well. There's greater punishment in forwarding that which is incorrect. That person should prepare his abode in the fire of Jannah. Man kadhiba alayya muta'ammidan fajazahu Jahannam, as mentions. That whoever deliberately, and some riwayat don't have the word muta'ammid is in it. So deliberately or not deliberately, the one who forwards something which is a lie ascribed towards Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then his abode will be in the fire of Jahannam. So we should be very conscious of this as well. The main message here was, as Allah Ta'ala mentions here, that whoever becomes a means of others doing good, they will also get a share from it. And whoever becomes a means of others doing wrong, they will also get a share of the punishment there. Allah Ta'ala grants our understanding. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.